an Illinois Democrat who is seeking to retain a seat in the House this November in the midterms, recently claimed that the funding for the IRS is going towards resources that the agency needs. And Jenny Allen and Chuck Reddick, who were appointed by the former president, insist that the additional enforcement funds will target the wealthy and not middle-class taxpayers.
I'll tell you who built America, the middle class. And the people who built the middle class are organized labor, unions. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. That's a straight fact. The executive order I'm going to sign today is going to help ensure that we build a better America, we build it right, and we build it on time, and we build it cheaper than it would have been otherwise. You know, the executive order is making sure that federal construction projects get completed on time and under budget.
Now, this new money will help to reverse more than a decade of underfunding of the IRS. The IRS budget was cut sharply during the 2010s and remains about 20% below its 2010 level. The Inflation Reduction Act provides $80 billion over 10 years for the IRS to rebuild and train its staff and make long-term investments in computer systems which are already out of date. The added funding is necessary to fill a large budget hole from a decade of cuts and enable the IRS to fulfill its core responsibilities of helping taxpayers navigate the tax system and enforcing the nation's tax laws. So new information has just been released by Congress. Lawmakers have announced some new deposit date for when Americans can expect to receive thousands of dollars in extra cash. These checks will be automatically deposited. Democrats who run state government celebrated this week, and while announcing that tax rebate checks began heading to 6 million taxpayers, the checks are worth more than $1 billion. Rebates on income and property taxes are part of a $1 billion inflation relief package built into this year's budget. During a news conference, Governor J.B. Pritzker said, "Everyone knows inflation is a global problem with local consequences. Prices at the pump and at the supermarket have taken Illinois families on a roller coaster ride over the past months. And with 8 weeks remaining before the November midterms, the timing is perfect for Governor Pritzker and every member of the General Assembly. Rebates will arrive by mail or direct deposit in the closing days of the campaign season, when voters make up their minds." Revenue Director David Harris said that individual taxpayers making less than $200,000 will receive a $50 rebate, with $100 to couples filing jointly earning less than $400,000. Taxpayers will also receive $100 for claim dependents up to 3. Property tax rebates will be equal to the amount a homeowner claimed as a credit on income tax returns last year. That's up to $300. Governor Pritzker has a few other provisions to fight inflation. Other initiatives include a 6-month freeze on an increased motor tax fuel and a year-long suspension of the sales tax on groceries. At the same time, more than $1 billion is put aside for future emergency expenditures. There are several other states that have proposed and approved stimulus legislation. Thousands of residents could see refunds of $30,000 and $500 of a tax credit under a new package. The lawmakers in Michigan are discussing refunds and rebates for residents from the $7 billion state surplus. Now, the House Democratic Caucus has introduced a new 6-bill package offering a hefty increase to the earned income tax credit and a new rebate as well, referring to it as the Michigan Pocketbook Plan.
Saving taxpayers money, clearing construction zones quickly, and ensuring that everything the federal government signs to contract to build is built to last. You guys really genuinely are the best in the world. That's not hyperbole, it's a fact. To do that, we're using the tool that iron workers here know very well, called project labor agreements. I know you all know it, but folks who may be watching this may not fully understand it. Simply put, these agreements that contractors, subcontractors, and unions put in place before a construction site gets underway, before the construction begins. They ensure that major projects are handled by well-trained, well-prepared, highly skilled workers. And they ward off problems. They resolve disputes ahead of time, ensuring safer work sites, avoiding disruptions and work stoppages that can cause expensive delays down the line. And that makes a big difference for the American taxpayer. Because when big construction projects are completed efficiently and with the highest degree of professionalism, it's good for the American taxpayer. That's not hyperbole, that's a fact. We don't talk about it, though. We don't talk about how y'all save the American taxpayers money. It's good for families who who live in those communities all across the country with federal construction projects are being built as I speak. And it means that modernization of your local waterways will get done sooner, won't cost twice as much as expected. And when the next storm comes, the power will more likely stay on and homes and business will be better protected from flooding. It means new air traffic control towers at the local airports will be up and running more quickly. So flights are safer at the airports and more efficient. It means new housing will be built on our military bases. Will be of the highest quality which these service members deserve. And will hold up better and make life easier for our military families. The executive order I'm going to sign.
Everybody, there's some shocking news. The lawmakers are now negotiating on sending $400 stimulus payments to people that meet the eligibility requirements. So if you've been affected by the ongoing crisis, don't worry because stimulus checks are definitely on the way. Now, prices at the pump, the gas pump that is, have stopped falling from their recent highs, and some forecasters are warning of another uptick as the summer driving season looms. According to AAA, after a slow but steady decline, the national average price for regular gasoline bottomed out at around $4.07 per gallon. And since the national average has increased 4 days in a row, climbing to $4.10 a gallon on Tuesday, it's the first increased gas prices since early March, when the turmoil in energy markets hit a crescendo. And it dashes hope that the national average would drop to $4 a gallon, taking the pressure off inflation that is running at the highest pace in 40 years. Now, the president of Lipo Oil told CNN, "This is terrible news for inflation, and it isn't going down anymore." Up until this week, people have been forecasting a return to $4 a gallon for gas. People have since abandoned that call because of renewed concerns about oil supplies and a pop in gasoline prices. However, the outlook is highly uncertain. Oil prices remain volatile and are subject to sharp moves, both higher and lower. They retreat in prices at the pump over the past 6 weeks and was driven by a variety of factors, including a tumble in oil prices, recession fears, and an unprecedented release of oil from emergency stockpiles by the U.S. The good news is the federal government analysts still see gas prices going lower. The Energy Information Administration expects retail gas prices to average around $3.84 a gallon during this summer's driving season, although they'll be well above last week's summer average of $3.06 a gallon. The EIA notes that inflation-adjusted gas prices would still be below the levels of 2014, let alone the spike in 2008 during the onset of the Great Recession. So, Gavin Newsom has proposed giving $400 payments to the owner of a vehicle registered in California as a way to address skyrocketing gas prices. The $11 billion relief package would send payments of $400 to the owner of each registered vehicle, up to 2 vehicles per person. Newsom is also proposing $750 million in grants that would actually make public transit free for about 3 months. Up to $600 million is set to pause a part of the sales tax rate on diesel for 1 year, and $523 million to pause the inflationary adjustment to gas and diesel excise tax rate. Governor Newsom said that direct relief will address the issue that we are all struggling to address, and that's the issue of gas prices, not only here in our state, but of course across the country. Now, Newsom's proposal also calls for $500 million in active transportation for projects that promote biking and walking throughout the state, and fast-tracks a $1.75 billion portion of the governor's historic $10 billion package to get more Californians into cleaner vehicles faster and sooner. California, in particular, is grappling with the highest gas prices in the nation, but gas prices are painfully high across the country, prompting lawmakers in Congress to consider a $2,000 stimulus check payment to help. The Gas Rebate Act, which was proposed by Democrat Mike Thompson, would actually pay $100 per person every month for a gallon of gas is at least $4. Under the proposal, single taxpayers who make up to $80,000 a year and joint filers who make up to $160,000 a year would actually qualify. If approved, the gas rebate payments proposed by the governor will come in the form of debit cards to the registered owner of a vehicle. Folks, I think that President Biden can definitely do something for the American people and send out stimulus payments sooner than later. If you guys agree, tell me in the comments down below.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Steve, for that introduction. And a special thanks to the 42% of you actually applauded. I'm really excited to be here tonight with the only group of Americans with a lower approval rating than I have. That's hard to say after what we just saw. Just imagine if my predecessor came to this dinner this year. Now that would really have been a real coup if that occurred. A little tough, huh?
We had a very good discussion at our lunch today, and we're at the starting line of a 5-week work period. Democrats are focused on making it as productive as the last work period, which was extremely productive. We'll continue working on legislation to lower costs and improve Americans' daily lives. That's one of our primary focuses. We're pushing legislation to lower the cost of putting food on the table, fight price gouging at the pump, keep the cost of insulin affordable, relieve supply chain crisis, and increase competition through antitrust enforcement. In all those ways, just take the Just take the example of the oil companies. They made record profits this year, more than they ever have. I think it's over $200 billion for the top companies, and yet they did record stock buybacks. Here, price of oil is going way up, and what are they doing? Even from their own point of view, they're not improving their own production, let alone help their employees or reduce prices. Instead, it's to feather the nests of CEOs and rich shareholders. It's outrageous. And one of the reasons we want to get Bedoya on the FTC is to look into it, but as you'll hear from Senator Cantwell, we're exploring legislative approaches as well. These are all areas where Congress can now take action to help American families. But to move quickly, of course, the way the Senate works, we need cooperation from our Republican colleagues. Pointing fingers isn't going to help fight inflation. It isn't going to lower the costs for American families. They need to get on board and not let extraneous political issues get in the way of the Senate delivering help for families. We're also going to continue to confirm President Biden's administrative... Hey, folks, can't hear. Thank you. We're going to continue confirming President Biden's administrative and judicial nominees. This week, we're teed up to confirm President Biden's nominees to the FTC, the Federal Reserve, Department of Labor, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and District Court. Now, we've had some issues with attendance that just arose in the last few hours, but we're going to continue pushing to get the President's nominees confirmed. These health issues will not deter us from getting these done. Also, during this work period, the Senate's ready to work quickly to approve the President's expected emergency funding request to support the people of Ukraine in their fight against Russian aggression. Once the President makes his request to Congress, approving additional aid for Ukraine will be a priority. I expect both sides to work in the same bipartisan way we did the first time to get a Ukraine supplemental done. So we got a lot to do. Let me call on, who's more senior? You came the same year. We'll do it by alphabet.